When you deploy the operating system, you have two overall choices. Choice one is a clean install. This means nothing on the machine will be retained. If this server currently runs server 2016, if you perform a clean install, it completely formats the drive on that server, erases the operating system, files, applications, nothing will remain. Then you have a clean install of server 2019. So if you want to completely wipe out your existing configuration, then you can reload your applications, all those things after the fact. Or you have a brand new server. You just purchased this hardware and now you need to install an operating system on it. So those would be our two examples of clean installs. Now the process for doing that, I simply boot my machine. It could be a virtual machine or physical. So we say machine, we mean physical, or a virtual machine from the Windows Server 2019 media. Once you do that, it's going to bring you up to the Windows setup. In the setup, it's going to ask you for your language. It's going to ask you to set the time, the currency format, and your keyboard layout. Once you choose those, it's going to give you 4 choices for operating systems. It's going to ask you if you want standard or data center, with or without this desktop experience. So the way that's going to look, the desktop experience is the server with a graphical user interface. If you install without the desktop experience, you have what we call a server core operating system that has no graphical user interface. Just a command prompt is all you would actually get. So when you install, it's going to ask you if you want standard, core, or if you want standard, I'm going to say DE for desktop experience. So no GUI here, you have a GUI here. Or do you want data center, core, or data center, desktop experience? Now, we looked at this and earlier we established the big difference was licensing. You get 2 virtual licenses with standard and you get unlimited virtual licenses if you choose data center. So those are the 4 options we are presented with. Once you select the operating system you want to install, we will accept the license agreement. Then we will choose our installation. That's going to be, in this case, would be a clean install is what we want. If you want a clean install, weirdly, it's actually named custom. It has said that since server 2008. They name it custom, but it just formats the drive, wipes everything away. I guess it would have made too much sense to actually name it clean install because that's what it's always referenced as. Then you can choose the volume that will host the installation. Now, when we say volume, we mean like the drive. If your computer has, say, 2 hard drives in it, you can pick which hard drive it's actually installed on, but it'll then create the volume for you, it'll format it, and install the operating system. And you're done. That'll take a few minutes to run through. It's going to reboot the computer, and then it's going to ask you to set your password for the administrator account. Once you set your password, it then brings up the login screen, and you can log in as administrator, and you have a fully functioning operating system. So that is our clean install. The other install is an in-place upgrade. Now this means you have a server, like 2016 we'll say. You already have this configured with applications and files and all those things. We'll say data. Everything's already configured on this server. You want this server to remain configured exactly the way it is. You just want to run Windows Server 2019. If that's true, you just perform an in-place upgrade. Now, it can be pretty easy to do that. You could simply take the Windows Server 2019 DVD. If we're working with a virtual machine, you can use an ISO file. You just need the media. Once you put that in, it'll actually auto run for you. Or you could just pop in like the DVD and open the DVD itself, and you're going to see a file named setup.exe. Double click that, and it runs setup and brings you up to the installation window, and you go through the same exact process. You will accept the license agreement, you'll accept your keyboard layout, all those things. The only difference is you will not do a clean install, the custom option. You're going to choose an in-place upgrade. Now, we can choose the architecture, standard, or data center, with or without the desktop experience. Now, that seems like an odd choice if you're doing an upgrade, but what's possible, let's say this 2016 server was a standard edition. You want to do an in-place upgrade to 2019, but for 2019, you want to run data center. That's possible. You could simply choose data center, and it's going to upgrade you from 2016 standard to 2019 data center. So they don't have to follow the same exact operating system additions path. The one thing they will not allow you to do, they will not allow you to upgrade from a desktop experience to a server core, because that actually would remove the interface itself. So you can't go that direction. And you cannot go from data center to standard, because that's a reduction in capability. Like, you would lose licensing capability. So for that, you can go, we'll say STD for standard. You can go standard to standard. You can go standard to desktop experience without a problem. And you can go from core to desktop experience. But you cannot go the other directions. And I didn't put it in the list, but naturally, you can go from data center, I'll say DC for data center, to data center. So you just can't have a reduction in capability with that. But once we do all that, we've accepted a licensing agreement. We will choose what we want to keep. So I can keep all my files. I can keep apps. Now, there is an option to keep nothing, meaning it would simply remove apps and data, but it would retain like operating system level settings. So still, that's not the same as a clean install. Now, what I can say about this from experience, this is a rare option. Usually you do not want to do this for several reasons. One, I've had this many times lead to conflicts with these dynamic link libraries, or DLLs, where you have an application installed, it loaded these DLL files for server 2016. That DLL file may not be the same DLL file that should be used in server 2019, may cause some type of conflict. So various types of conflicts are always issues. Even with drivers, can potentially be a problem. The other concern, let's say you do this. You take your 2016 server and you do your in-place upgrade to 2019. A week later, you start having problems. It is now much more difficult to troubleshoot, because now, instead of assuming it's a configuration issue just with server 2019, you now have to actually go back and look at things in the upgrade process. Is there something related to 2016 that is causing an issue after we upgrade to server 2019? So all those things become a little more difficult. So usually we prefer a clean install.